I'm just about to weld my handle on to the underside of this, but before I do, what I thought I would do is just get some pieces of scrap that are the same size material and just have a go at welding those and seeing what my settings, my ideal settings are for this job. So I've got my earth connected as directly as possible, and so I'm going to have a little play around. You'll find when I weld out the rest of this job, and I'll make this all into one video, that the most ideal settings I've written on my job, and I've failed to write on the settings that I use for the handle, so I'll have a play around. Because this bar is pretty thick, it's 12mm thick bar, round bar, and then this is only 3mm, the round bar is going to suck up a fair bit of heat, so I'm going to direct more of my heat into the round. So it's going to be a fairly high setting whatever I use, so I'm thinking I might probably use like a 7 and maybe a 3.2. We'll see where that gets us. Okay, calling eyes. I might just do one at a time. So you will only put one tack on yours, you put a tack either side, I'll show that as well. And then I'm going to weld it in 2 half moons. So I'll have a play with this and see where we get to. So if we take a closer look at that weld, it's having a bit of trouble focusing. That's not too bad. So it's sitting maybe a tiny bit high. So if it's sitting a bit high, I can either turn the wire down or the power up. So what I'm thinking is I might just crank the power one more and see where that gets me to. Okay, so that is with the wire same at 3.2, but I've just turned up the heat a little bit, and you can see it's starting to really bite into the bottom of that rod. I'm thinking this might be my setting here, so it's an 8 and a 3.2. Done here is I've built myself what I call a perch, and what a lot of other people call a perch. I've clamped a G-clamp there. I'm placing a glove over the thread just to protect it from any splatter. You don't want the splatter from the welder going in the thread. And what that's going to do is that's going to allow me to just perch my hand on there so that I can get a really nice steady movement around that pipe. Otherwise I would just be relying on my body to be nice and still. I've got the job clamped to the bench so it can't really move around too much. If I wanted to, I'd probably chuck one more clamp on there, but that should be enough. And we'll see how we go. Not sure what this is going to look like on the camera, but it should give you an idea of setting up a perch. And if you've got to do a lot of welds, a perch is a really good idea. So I'm just going to do a half moon from one side to the other. I'm actually going to practice it in my movement before. I'm going to practice my movement before I do the weld, just so that I know that I can actually achieve that movement, and then I'll do the weld. Whoa! Okay, so not a bad little result. It's very tricky welding around small pipe, but But that, I reckon once I do another one, I'll sort of get my eye in. And so that's just a matter of moving my perch around and doing that weld. I'll go ahead and weld the rest of it off now, and I'll probably speed it up a little bit in the video so that you're not wasting too much of your time. Another good way of using a perch is to just bring something solid over and to lean on that and do the same thing with that. I'll keep using this clamp for now. So I'm now going to weld the rest of the barbecue plate off. It's pretty important that you don't weld off any of these welds until you've got the whole frame together, all your grills tacked in place, because what that's going to do is it's going to help hold the whole barbecue plate rigid while you weld it off. You'll be able to go up to the demo, you'll be able to see a lot of the settings, but you'll also get a feel for yourself what's going on. Now, looking at the settings here, I've used a bit more heat in the corner here where I've got a lot more plate, and then I've turned it down for these runs along here. But there's definitely a lot of heat gets sucked up in these corners where there's a lot of steel. So you just need to think, if there's more steel, I need more heat so that I get all that penetration happening. So I might weld these corners off first, and then I'll come back and look at the other ones. Looking too bad, sitting a tiny bit high, so I might just turn my wire down a touch, try and see if I can flatten that out a little bit. Okay, it's looking a lot better. Probably also getting my eye in. Where it was a bit high, I might have been travelling just a touch slow as well. I'm going to try and keep flipping my job around so I don't put too much heat into one side, and then that way, as it expands and contracts, it's going to pull against itself. Worth noting too, guys, is that I'm welding back into my tacks. That's very good for me to tell me when to stop. I can't really see the black pen after I start welding, so it's a good reminder for me where to stop. So that's another something to write about and something to think about when you do it. Just turn it down for the corners. I've got a bit more to fill. There is a plate underneath here, so that will catch a bit. So I'll turn it down even more when I get to that open side. I'll turn it down now to 5. going to do these two corners now. And so you take a look, I had the plate behind when I was filling these up, and so that was good. That was sort of sucking a lot of heat out of my weld, because I was filling up a crack, there's the potential for the weld to fall through the crack. So on these open ones, I'm going to turn it all the way down to a 5 and maybe like a 2.9. And we'll see what happens there. So 2.9 with the wire. Just because I'm a bit worried about the weld falling through. So we'll see how we go here. It's always good if you're going to make a mistake to record it. Okay, so as I was welding that, I could really feel it biting through, and almost on the verge of being a bit too hot. So I think if you look from the other side, I'll just hang this welding torch up 1 second. You can see in there that the weld, that's full penetration coming through that crack there. So any hotter, and I might have lost that. That's sitting really flat. So this gap's a little bit smaller, so I should be sweet. But yeah, so definitely have a look at your settings on that one there, because there's less material there, there's more chance of it blowing out through the bottom.